Yeah. Episode 4. Here we go. Yeah. It's Howard Heinzl, the real chef in Bulldogs. Has Emit rushed past everyone in the Boyles line? Is the ship sinking in America? The ship trial. Let us analyze the evidence on this episode of Bulldog Court. Bulldog community, please rise. This is your host, Get a Hold James, because we got to get a hold of the game.
Court is now in session.
Oh yeah. Another episode of Bulldog Court is now in session. Once again, this is your host, Get a Hold James, because we got to get a hold of the game. I'd like to thank everybody for coming to check me out tonight. Also, I'd like to say what a wonderful time I had at the South Bottom Dog Show over in New Iberia, Louisiana. Got a chance to bump elbows with some legends, Fat Bill, Mr. Goodson, Sam Cates, Diamond Jim was in the building, the legendary Floyd Boudreaux, the Honorable J-Bo. Got a chance to meet Nonstop as well from Bulldogging with Bo on Dogman TV. Just so many legends, Kip from Trey Ace Kennels, or Lockdown Rudy was there in attendance, just so many. Rasta Man Boom, Yes, I am to the maximum, you know what I mean? It was just a real good vibe. Everybody was enjoying themselves. It wasn't any drama whatsoever, that I could see whatsoever. It's just a good, good time that we had, man. I got a chance to meet people that I've been seeing in the chat room for a couple of years, Bobby Digital, on Pressure Kennels, John Collins, Shreveport in the building, you feel me? Just a lot of good people, Arrowhead, Arrowhead showed some excellent animals at the show, at the confirmation show, him and his whole family was there. They all were participating. It was a beautiful thing to see. Mestizo Kennels, I used to see them in the Gazette all the time. He also competed in the confirmation show. Just a number of, good people competing, having a good time, and all for one cause, loving the Bulldog show. Shout out to South Bottom and his family for doing what they did at this, putting on this great event. Hey, a lot of good, got a chance to get shrimp po' boys. I ain't had them in a while. Man, really enjoyed. Then we went out to eat together. Hey, it was a great vibe, man. But, we finna get into these cases today. We're gonna get into case number 1. Is Howard Heinzl the real chef in Bulldogs? And the reason why I frame it like this is because, I believe down in Arizona, he had his own restaurant. I think he was partners with an African-American guy who also had dogs also too. There's a lot of backstories to how the Daibo champion Arizona Pete, which, they are Little Mate brothers. More famous, of course, is Toodles Daibo, but that came from Howard Heinzl, some people say by way of the African-American guy who actually made that breeding, or who actually had that dog, and then it was sold to or given to, however it may be, to Earl Tudor, and then the rest is pretty much history. So, he was on the restaurant, Mr. Howard Heinzl, and then just because in the Bulldog world, he cooked up more than just, soup and T-bone steaks, you know what I mean, and all your side dishes and everything. Hey, he was cooking up more than that. He was cooking up some of the main recipes behind a lot of the top-notch Bulldogs to come in America at that time. We talking about way back, but he was able to put together a lot of stuff. And I also have, I like to say theory, but it's kind of not a theory because the proof is in the pudding. Or if at least having a quarter of Heinzl making the difference. We look at pedigrees like Smith and Walton's Grand Champion Badger, heavy Satch and Bloody Sunday with a little bit of Heinzl in it. And that was, all man, a little bitty demon, And so you have Johnson's Grand Champion Miss Rage, who was bred to Jeep to produce Rowdy and all those. And then, a lot of that goes into part of the pedigree of what you see when you see Don Levy's or Schoolboys or Big Red, the Jeep to Grand Champion Miss Rage. Miss Rage was double bred La Passe's Buster, a quarter Heinzl. You see where I'm going with this. As far as just a little quarter of Heinzl. The quarter Heinzl theory, probably many more that I could probably look into and see where it just a touch of Heinzl did the trick. So, it was a lot of people cooking with the Heinzl recipes, if you will. And no better person that was the main cook than Earl Tudor. And Earl Tudor dogs are behind just about every kind of dog that it is, other than Kobe or Red Boy stuff that you might find, or Old Family Reds. Even in some cases, they got a touch of Tudor in that too, So there's no really arena or area where the Tudor blood has not, or Tudor breedings have not touched some part of the Bulldog world. But more heavily in the Mayfield, Alligator Hammonds, Gary Hammonds, and Floyd Boudreaux, those three main components. But if you look at Daibo in his pedigree, a lot of Heinzl in there. So that's my thing. You may agree or disagree whether or not Mr. Heinzl is, one of the main chefs. Like he really was cooking. And he was cooking up some of your favorite recipes. You know what I'm saying? As far as the Bulldog, in the Bulldog world. And he was cooking up some major stuff that we could use into the now. And that's really the engine behind a lot of, the blood that we use, no matter what, because we know that the Daibo Kobe, cross, the old school way of saying it. You could say Eli Kobe, you could say, Red Boy Eli, whatever you want to say, Red Boy, Metlin's Outlaw, Eli, whatever you want to say, however which way you want to use it. You could say because of Finley's Bow having some Kobe in him, you know what I'm saying? And then you got the Daibo on Honey Bun side, that is a traditional cross of a Kobe type, bullet, and then, Daibo stuff through the Eli, and the Carver on the Honey Bun side, so those combinations have worked over and over again. And you may not feel that way. You may name someone else, not to limit the intellect and the knowledge of the Bulldog community. You may name someone else that I'm not even thinking about who may be the main chef. You may say Tudor still is really the main chef in Bulldogs. You wouldn't be, it's hard for me to disagree with you in that. And so you may say Kobe is the main chef in Bulldogs, He was on the opposite end of the spectrum for a lot of people, but he was indeed in the kitchen cooking. Yes, John P., whether you're saying Lewis, all of them major cooks, you know what I'm saying? So this is what I'm presenting to the Bulldog community for you to decide. And once again, I have to say this every time. I am not the judge nor jury, for it is up to you, the Bulldog community, to decide which way the tide may roll. So in the case of, is Howard Heinzl the main chef in Bulldogs? This case is now dismissed. We'll get back to the show after these important messages.
Check out one of the best dog talk shows out here, Bulldoggin' with Bo, on Dogman TV, Thursdays and Sundays, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Shout out to his co-host, Nonstop.
Yeah, so we're about to get into case number 2. Has Emit rushed past everybody in the Boyles line? The it got to be a certain age bracket to get that metaphor or whatever analogy I just put together about Emit rushing, you know, the running back for the Cowboys for y'all young folks. All-time lead rusher in the NFL history. You know, just to break it down for young cats in the world. In my, you know, looking from a distance, of course, I'm no Boyles connoisseur. But I have been looking at the numbers and stats and looking at, just like in sports, I'm looking at numbers, stats, who's all time, and who's, you know, making their way to the top over time. And sometimes when you in the midst of everything and looking at stuff, and then you might have a little favoritism, you have your favorites. And when I noticed that people in the Boyles world of the Bulldog world, because it is broken off into sections, you got your Red Boy Jockos, your Eli people, your Red Boy people, you know, the Bolio, Tombstone, your Bolio people, you know, whatever the case may be. When I hear, like my brother, Scratchline News, who I feel like is a real connoisseur of the Boyles line. He knows the ins and outs. He understands. He knows different strands of that family very well. So he could go in depth probably far more than I could. But at one time, I can recall me and him chatting back and forth in whatever chat room we were in at the time, maybe on Twin Show, GHK, or it may have been on Bulldog with Bo. But in my estimation, I thought that Killian, I believe he's WCC's Killian, Windy City Combine's Killian, when all the dust settles, maybe 20 years from now, he will be the top dog, point intended, of the Boyles world. He will have surpassed Boat Action, Von Zachariah. He would have surpassed High Class Red Johnny. He would have surpassed Sitting Bull. He would have surpassed any of the one of the ones. Clyde the Undertaker, Right Hand Man. He would have surpassed all of them. And you know, we knew maybe 18 years ago, Say Goose's Sniper was getting a lot of fanfare, which is also, I believe, a son of Killian. The reason why I felt so confident that because of the popularity of Say Goose's Raptor, Say Goose's Sniper, that Killian, that will help push Killian as the name that you would hear in the future when you talk about the Boyles line. But just under further investigation, further looking into the numbers, man, is it me or is Emit rushing past everyone in the Boyles line? Is he just making his way because of wacko, regardless of whatever you want to say about him? He produced retard, still a representative of Emit. Whether you believe or not believe that Grand Champion Sparky was thorough, I've heard that rumor before, but nevertheless, he appears in the pedigrees of some pretty proficient Boyles dogs. And you know, when you talk about Sparky being bred to daughters of Emit to get some outstanding animals, you have to put Emit into the discussion. And you think about Mel Kant's Boot Stomper, who produced a lot of dogs, and the verdict is still out on those animals. May even go into the Champ House dog, which is a granddaughter of Champion Troy, who was off Emit. That's another one. We talking about the progeny, his progeny, and the animals down into the future, his great his grandkids, his great grandkids, and in that lineage of family of Emit dogs, how potent they are in their producing power down in the future. This is exactly what we are talking about right here. Now I have to give the other side. You may say, just like I said, you may think that it is Killian. You may have another name in mind as far as who you think will be that next name that will be spoken about in a profound way in the future for the Boyles line. Like I said, I only named a few, but there's the right hand man's, the boat action or Von Zacharias of the world, things of this nature. Von Sandstorm. You may look at those dogs. You may look at the Black Pass line. You may be seeing the STP's champion Luther, may be in consideration. We see those dogs, you may say Boyles, Bad Rosemary, may be in consideration because, some of her offspring overseas may be making an impact. You may, and from overseas, people don't even look at Champion Ernie's line, that's over there in, the Europe and the Balkan area, Yugoslavia, Ukraine area that has made an impact over there. And sometimes I really believe they're trying to keep that under wraps, but I see you. So I know that those dogs are in fact making an impact in certain circles, in Europe. So with that being said, do you believe, to the Bulldog community, do you believe that Emit is rushing past everyone in the Boyles line? Do you believe it? And if you have another name, please place that name in the comment section, so that we might further discuss. So the case on is Emit rushing past everyone in the Boyles line, this case is now dismissed. And we're going to get into this third and final case for tonight. And first of all, before I even get into this, it's not my intentions in any way to bash any bloodline, dog, or whatever. It's just my perspective of looking at it, and I present it to the Bulldog community to ask them, what do they think about whatever the subject matter might be, and for them to decide. So the case that we're about to get into is the ship sinking in America? The ship trial. That's right. The ship trial. We're about to get into this. Because when we look at the ship dog, because historically speaking, import brought in from out of the country, he had about 8-9 champions up under his belt, in Europe, just outstanding resume. He was a champion himself, threw about 8-9 champions, and I think the numbers may have went up, after he left and was imported into America. And when we look at back then, the future looked real bright. It looked real bright, real promising. I mean, this could be the next wave. It may hit us by storm,
Ahoy there! Ahoy, motherfucker!
But no storm came on the ship. Okay, I'm gonna speak on this side of the coin, and you can have whatever you want to say on the other side of the coin. But then we're gonna do both sides. We'll do both sides, and order in the court. I'm gonna get to it. Order in the court. So when we look at this, when we see the dogs, in America, they don't, they don't really look as, they didn't look as,
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Who the hell's piloting this vessel? Stevie fucking Wonder?
Number one, we wondering, is everything legit in Europe with that resume? You start bringing things into question. We want to know, as far as the level of competitiveness, is it up to par with other places in the world? We should, those type of things start to happen. And I said this on another episode of Bulldog Court. Maybe been the last episode. Check that out. Shameless plug. It just seemed like when the dogs come from Europe and stuff, and when their feet hit the soil, they kind of lose energy. You know what I'm saying? Something happens to them to where they don't look as good as they looked when they was on, different avenues of, circuits elsewhere in the world. It just don't look as good. His offspring historically is, back then, of course, you could say, in the wrong hands, you could say whatever you want to say. Haven't heard, didn't hear anything much from it. It looked like the ship, to me, began to, go capsize and go up on the water, But on the other side, I gotta give the other side. I know people been waiting to hear the other side. That it could be a sense of, like I said, maybe in the wrong hands. It could be a sense of the wrong combinations. It could be a sense of maybe that blood has evolved to the point that it just doesn't gel well with American bred dogs, in that time. So when we look at, and maybe they have bred their dogs in such a way, much like the Mexican or Hispanic, South American dog men that have bred their dogs a certain way for so many years, it has evolved and become its own thing, and it usually clicks with other bloodlines that are bred similar down there. And so you might have to find the right combination that works for here in America. And maybe that's the case, but it's just something that I'm presenting, something that I've been looking at and saying to myself, is the ship sinking in America? There's a lot of hype and fanfare, and I'm always careful and mindful of hype and fanfare. When people up in something that they don't know all of the facts, but you're trying to big up something. And you might say, yeah, you're trying to downplay something that you may not know all the facts. And true, I'll take that. I'll take that jab on the chin, like a champ. But I also, too, can look at the numbers. And I also, too, can study the history like I do all other animals. And I'm just saying, but it's not my place to judge. It is up to the Bulldog community. So I'm leaving it in your hands, Bulldog community. I want people to go over these numbers and look at all those champions that were bred to ship, that were from overseas, that produce well. At the end, look at some of the ones that he was bred to, when bred to dogs that are fresh, American bred animals, and look at the numbers. And you get with me in the comment section on another channel and just discuss this and look at this further to see if I'm way off base with this. Some of you may even think that he might need to be in the trash bin. It's over with, And not everything is for debate or discussion. I understand that. But when you start looking at the numbers, when you start looking at, and it's been some time has passed. History is beginning to shape itself and take course. And I'm just looking at my notes, and just historically, I just see where That stuff got beat on real bad.
Oh, somebody! Oh, he needs some milk.
Just don't know. Is it up on the, is it going up? Has the capsized? Is the captain standing on the edge of the boat with the sad song playing? I'm just saying, is it about to be submerged in the sea of Americans, Bulldogs' finest? Did it get submerged? Did it get baptized, if you will? So in the case of, is the ship sinking in America? This case is now dismissed.
Ahoy there! Ahoy, motherfucker!
Now it's time for my closing monologue. Like I always say, make your next move your best move. But move strategic, like a chess move. Go out and do something constructive this week. You know what I'm saying? I hope y'all have a great week coming up. I hope y'all walk those hounds out. You know what I'm saying? I hope y'all teach them a new skill. Something they can use later on down the line. Wall climbing, treadmill racing, or a weight pool or something. Once again, this is your host, Get a Hold James, because we got to get a hold of the game. I'm out.